The Long Road to True Happiness by WierdRandomTina. Chapter 16. Honesty. Branch waited anxiously on his couch, praying that Poppy would show up. But he had spent 2 nights consumed by restlessness and/or unsettling dreams. Him searching for Poppy, but she's gone missing and the whole village can't find her. His uncontrollable singing attracting a Bergen and resulting in him getting taken. Him happily singing with Poppy as she had wanted, resulting in her getting captured by a Bergen. Poppy seeking him out only to tell him how terrible of a troll he was. So it didn't take long for him to fall asleep out of pure exhaustion. Poppy was a bit anxious as she descended into the bunker. I really hope Branch isn't mad at me. But if he is, I deserve it. I was being a bad friend. He didn't specify how long he wanted to be alone. But it's been 2 days, so surely that is enough. But if he wants me to leave, I'll leave. Poppy felt a sharp pang in her heart. She'd rather rip her own hair out than upset anyone, especially her friends. Reaching the main level, she found her grey-skinned, black-haired friend leaning back in his olive-green couch, sound asleep. Poppy hesitated. What should I do now? Leave? Wake him up? Wait until he wakes up? I don't have too much time. She opted for the third choice anyway, carefully setting herself on the other cushion of the couch. Another pang stabbed into her as she observed Branch's face, the dark circles around his eyes indicating this was a much-needed slumber. Poppy could feel her own eyes starting to water. I caused this. This is my fault. I was focusing on, again, what I wanted for him, instead of what he needed from me. She roughly shook her head. Pull yourself together. What's done is done. I can make this right. I will make this right. Composing herself, she took another look at Branch. She had no idea how long he had been out. Could have been minutes, could have been hours. Poppy decided to give him half an hour and see if he came to on his own by then. She occupied herself by reading a book, but after almost 40 minutes, Branch still hadn't budged. If it weren't for his light snoring, he could have passed for a statue. I should probably leave him be. He needs rest. But I can't wait another 2 days to resolve this. Obviously he's suffering for it far more than I am. Hesitantly, Poppy reached over and prodded his shoulder. No response. She tried again, a little harder. Still nothing. So she moved a bit closer, turning her body so she could grip his shoulder with her hand. She shook him lightly and quietly said his name. He stirred slightly, but remained fully asleep. Poppy was still debating against disturbing him, but her nerves got the better of her. She repeated her action, with a bit more force and volume, until, finally, his pale eyes fluttered open. Branch blinked repeatedly, gazing around in drowsy confusion. When his half-lidded eyes focused on Poppy, his brain suddenly registered to another troll's presence. Out of instinct, his body scrambled away from her. Poppy raised her hands in front of her in a soothing gesture. Whoa, whoa! It's okay. It's okay, Branch. It's just me. He calmed down, but was still trying to process the situation, rubbing his eyes as he let out a groan that turned into a yawn. She continued, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to startle you. I was going to leave you alone, but... Poppy's train of thought screeched to a halt, causing heavy silence. Despite their avoidance, both had significant things they wished to say to the other. Branch was understandable. It was normal for him to struggle expressing his thoughts. But Poppy was never rendered tongue-tied. At least she never used to be. It seemed Branch was the only troll who could trigger it. Finally the princess found her voice and murmured, Branch, I woke you up because I needed to tell you that I'm sorry for what happened. I got so excited when you came to the camp out And I was so happy that you were finally willing to hang out with my friends. And then I got pushy again. I stopped listening to you, yet expected you to listen to me. But I didn't truly mean to upset you.
I know, Poppy. It's okay, Branch murmured. I shouldn't have yelled at you. I wasn't expecting a request like that.
He suddenly looked very vulnerable, as he lowered his volume even more.
I was afraid you weren't coming back.
His sweet admission made her heart expand in her chest. Oh, Branch, you should know by now. I'll always come back. You're my friend. I will never give up on you. Ever. His heart twisted with sweet relief and bitter guilt.
Even a fuzz-brained fool knows you'll always return. But that doesn't mean you should.
Poppy almost couldn't believe that Branch wanted her here that much. Not long ago, he did everything he could to avoid her, or get rid of her. So, it's kind of windy and chilly outside. Is it okay if we stay down here?
Sure. What do you want to do?
Oh, I have no idea. You pick. I don't want to suggest something that you don't want to do.
I have no problem with you making suggestions, Poppy. But if I say no, I'd appreciate if you would respect that instead of continuing to insist. I know you mean well, but it can be really overbearing. Makes me feel like I'm trapped.
It hurt to hear those words, but instead of being offended or despondent, Poppy was glad that he finally outright telling her what was bothering him. It would allow her to improve. No, it's okay. You're right. You're absolutely right. I said in the beginning that I wouldn't make you do anything, and then I did exactly that. I'm sorry. I promise I'll work on being less impulsive. Thank you for being honest with me, Branch.
Yeah, I will try to be more upfront. I can't promise, but I will try.
Poppy smiled fondly. His gentle honesty was just so heartwarming. That sounds great. All I ask from you is one thing. Something I will not bend on. She watched the uncertainty grow on Branch's face, and quickly finished her thought. I want you to recognize that I'm always willing to be here for you, and any time, for any reason. All you have to do is ask. His face relaxed again. Deal? Branch's expression softened again, even more so than before. Then he held out his broad grey hand and said,
Deal.
She gladly accepted his hand, and they shared a firm handshake. The cheery, vibrant princess promptly turned to her signature state. All right, now that's settled. We can figure out what to do today. Let's see. Both trolls pondered for a few heartbeats, before answering in unison, Strike 5. Their widening eyes and small giggles were simultaneous as well. With that dilemma easily solved, Branch retrieved the game from his dining table. They weren't doing very well so far with making it a daily activity, but he had completed several practice solo rounds, and they seemed to pay off, as Branch was one to triumph in all 3 rounds they played. Afterward, he told Poppy it was a nice pastime. Strategic, yet relaxing. She responded happily. Well, it's not so relaxing when your opponent effortlessly wins almost every time. You're the rookie and you still beat me at everything. At this rate, I'll have to... Branch was surprised to see her expression droop mid-sentence. Then she continued, sounding almost meek. Is it okay if I bring you another prize? Or would you prefer if I don't? I just really like giving people things. But if you don't want me to...
It doesn't really matter, Poppy. That is, I appreciate all the little souvenirs and snacks. But if you bring me nothing at all, I won't be disappointed. Whatever is most convenient for you. You don't have to feel it's required.
He's never been so open with me. And it's all because I'm not forcing him to be. Poppy let out a small giggle. Okay. More little prizes will be coming your way then. Though he looked away, Branch did let out a half smile. A tiny weight that he hardly realised was there had finally been lifted from his chest. Now that he had finally managed to express that he did indeed care about her thoughtfulness. After a moment, they moved on to some reading. To Branch's surprise, she chose a book from his bookshelf, after asking him for permission, and settled back down at the edge of the couch to read about wilderness and survival tips. When she came across something interesting that she didn't know, she said it aloud. That is a neat way to build a tent. I always thought buffalo hibernated in the winter. I have to tell the twins about this new kind of durable leaf. They could use it as a new fabric. Oh, wow, I didn't know those little orange and purple flowers made trolls seriously ill. There aren't too many of them around the village, but that is a very useful thing to know. Branch stayed mostly quiet, other than confirming or elaborating on Poppy's spoken facts. But he kept his full attention on her. After a few chapters, Branch noticed Poppy shiver a few times. It was a bit damper than usual in his bunker today. He had grown used to it, but she wouldn't be, living above the ground in a furry pod bathed in sunlight. Branch stood without a word, and then went to his bedroom. Poppy sat up and watched him leave, but didn't question it, assuming he was heading to the washroom or something. When he returned half a minute later, he was carrying a quilted blanket. She was a bit chilly, but figured Branch was using it for himself, or in some other random reason. Maybe I'll ask if he has an extra I can borrow. To Poppy's surprise, when he reached the couch, he put it around her. In his wonderfully gentle manner, Branch draped it over her back and carefully adjusted it to cover her slender pink shoulders. A shiver passed through her body from head to toe, but not from being cold. Normally, when he did something unexpected and sweet, Poppy would feel the need to bounce and squeal. But in this moment, she was content to simply take in the gesture. Branch resumed his seat next to her. Poppy gazed tenderly at him, and he returned the gaze. After several lengthy seconds, his eyes were still locked onto hers. Her breath caught in her throat. The reserved troll had never maintained eye contact for this long before, unless it was a cold stare or a sour glare, which this was certainly not. The background began to fade away, until the only thing in Branch's vision were gorgeous fuchsia eyes, vibrant deep magenta hair, dazzling white freckles dotting cute pink cheeks. Poppy couldn't have looked away in that moment if someone had begged her to. His bold black hair was shining from the nearby mushroom light. His light grey-blue eyes twinkled the way they always do, when his kind-hearted side is showing through. Complete with a soft half-smile, Branch looked quite handsome. Why was she suddenly feeling dizzy? Neither noticed that their faces had drifted significantly closer until Branch's paranoid side kicked back into high gear. He jolted away and grabbed a stray book off the shelf faster than Poppy could blink. Without a word, she snuggled properly into the blanket and returned to her own book. But she couldn't concentrate on it at all. She was still kind of dizzy and had a funny swirling feeling in her stomach. Maybe my lunch didn't agree with me. Eventually, it died down, by the time she left the bunker. But on her way back to the village, Poppy was hit with another strange feeling. A pang in her gut that was almost like grief. Almost like she was missing Branch. How can I be? I was with him literally 2 minutes ago. And it's not like this was a final goodbye or something. I'll see him again in less than 2 days. I must be coming down with something. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one because I absolutely adore it. Their sheer honesty and willingness to listen. This is why I said last chapter that those emotions are precious. Because you have to realise it in order for it to fully impact. Vulnerability is needed for openness, and this is a beautiful example of that. She realises that she was wrong, and he realises he was wrong, and they're willing to be open and honest about it, and I love that. And at the end, she's starting to catch feelings. She's noticing that he's handsome. Broppy does something to me. And the fact that she thinks she's coming down with something because of the physical manifestation of how those emotions express themselves. Oh god, this is going to be fun to read. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe, and hit that bell to be notified whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care. Bye.